Okay, thank you very much, Robin, for that very thorough introduction to metamodernism, which I guess our talk is, the first bit is maybe recapping, reiterating a few of the things you've said, because metamodernism and the metamodernism discourse is really what brought together and instigated our collaborative practice. And it's important to say, first and foremost, to kind of reiterate what Robin was saying, that metamodernism is not a manifesto, despite what you can see behind me. So in a nutshell, the term is an attempt to describe contemporary culture as a whole, which it's argued and our generation intuitively seems to understand, has seen a move beyond the postmodern mode of late 20th century culture. So whereas, as Robin was saying, postmodernism was characterized by such things as deconstruction, irony, pastiche, nihilism, relativism, and the rejection of grand narratives, to caricature it somewhat, the discourse surrounding metamodernism engages with what we see today as a tentative return of sincerity, hope, affect, romanticism, and the possibility of grand narratives, whilst not forfeiting what we've learned from postmodernism. So rather than a return to naive modernist ideological positions, metamodernism suggests perhaps that our era is defined by an oscillation between aspects of both modernism and postmodernism. And in the wake of the crises of recent years, of climate change, the financial crisis, the escalation of global conflicts, as Robin was alluding to, there's a palpable yearning for change, for something beyond the all too hastily proclaimed end of history. But we're also a generation brought up on shows like South Park and The Simpsons, and for us, irony and cynicism is sort of like a default setting. It's something ingrained within us. But there's a desire to move beyond this somehow. So we see this cultural shift manifest itself as a sort of informed naivety, a pragmatic idealism, oscillating between sincerity and irony, deconstruction and construction, apathy and affect, in search of progress and meaning, and setting sail in pursuit of all sorts of potentially elusive horizons. And we can see this, for example, in the films of Wes Anderson, as Robin mentioned, Miranda July, Spike Jonze, in music, people like Arcade Fire, Bill Callahan, Future Islands, and so on. And we also see more speculative modes of thought thrive with strands like the new aesthetic, speculative realism, and object-oriented ontology. And the metamodern structure of feeling is being played out through political movements like Occupy and activists like the Yes Men. And coincidentally, Robin showed the banner that, I think, did you take that photo? At Occupy? Yeah, so Robin took that photo at Occupy Amsterdam that read simply, "I'm a hypocrite, but I keep trying." And I don't really have much to add about that, other than it really, I think, encapsulates perfectly that metamodern sensibility. We don't have any answers to it, but we do keep trying. So, thus, the metamodern generation acknowledges that we can be both ironic and sincere in the same moment, that one does not necessarily diminish the other. If one enacts or performs a movement as if movement is possible, as if one can transcend one's position, then perhaps in doing so, one can traverse some kind of new terrain. And so that brings me to the manifesto, because, as I said before, metamodernism is not a manifesto. It's not a movement. But as an artist, I couldn't resist the temptation to imagine it as if it was, to construct some kind of fantastical narrative. So I published this manifesto on the web back in 2011, written in the rather preposterous style of early modernist art manifestos. But every word is sincere nonetheless. Or rather, it is itself an exercise in this kind of simultaneous sincerity and irony. It acknowledges the danger and naivety of proposing any kind of utopian vision, but it explores that path nonetheless. And so I published this on the web, putting it out there in cyberspace where you don't know what connections will be made, testing out what sort of responses it would provoke. And it pretty much took on a life of its own, with different groups interpreting it in very different ways. A few took it as either purely ironic or entirely naive, whilst others intuitively understood it on its own terms, engaging with the sense it was attempting to articulate and embody. And I've always been something of a techno-optimist. In my background before I became an artist was actually making work on the web in the late 90s. So I reject terms like post-internet that are floating around at the moment, because I don't believe we've even begun to work out what the internet actually is or what it can be and what it's doing. And one of the purposes of putting the manifesto out there was to test these networks out. And so skip forward a few years, and lo and behold, the most unexpected result of this was that this chap turned up on my doorstep. So this is Shire. You may know him from such films as Indiana Jones, Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac, and most famously perhaps the multi-billion-dollar movie franchise Transformers, which you could say is a kind of epitome not just of mainstream popular culture, but of a very traditional form of media as passive capitalist consumer product. Well, it turns out Shire is actually a rather deep thinker, and he happened to stumble across my manifesto online, and it clicked with him right away. And in particular, the situation he found himself in at that moment. And that situation, for those who might not know, followed on from a short film he'd directed based on a comic by Daniel Klaus. Word for word, shot for shot, the only problem being that he'd failed to get Klaus's permission to do so. And whilst this was to some degree a deliberate artistic strategy on Shire's part, based on his thoughts at that time regarding a questioning of ideas of authorship and appropriation, he quickly realised that he'd crossed a line, and what he'd done was wrong in most people's eyes, and he promptly apologised for it. "I fucked up," he says, and he apologised repeatedly on Twitter and elsewhere. But given this kind of preset media narrative of celebrity apologies, and the inevitable press shitstorm that followed, now, no matter how sincere the sentiment behind his statements was, he felt unable to effectively communicate his heartfelt remorse, that everything he offered was tinged or received with a sort of ironic tint. But this is where it gets interesting. Rather than succumb to this frustration and wait for it all to simply blow over, he began to investigate and explore what this failure of communication might actually mean. So to subvert this, he began appropriating and tweeting apologies originally made by other celebrities, such as Tiger Woods, Mark Zuckerberg, Jay-Z, and even our own Nick Clegg, articulating his own authentic sentiments through gestures that were simultaneously inauthentic and authentic, ironic and sincere, since this is arguably the only or the most honest mode of expression, perhaps, in our hyper-mediated age. And he took to the skies, addressing Daniel Klaus with a 5-mile-wide sky-written apology, as you can see here. And this is the beginning of our collaboration, taking some kind of control of the conflicting media and artistic narratives and exploring the sense of disconnect at the heart of arguably all our public personas. But one can't simply renounce one's public persona, no matter how out of step the conflicting realities, especially if one's still figuring out what lies beneath it, as we're all in the process of doing to some degree, I think. And taking ownership of one's existential crisis, making it evolve into an existential exploration, is, I think, at the core of what many artists do. And so these actions became more and more performative.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it is because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
So, 24 hours after appearing on the red carpet in Berlin with a paper bag over his head, we staged a gallery performance in LA called #IamSorry. And we essentially wanted to create the possibility for intimate encounters between two people. We felt we wanted to create a physical space through and despite of a spectacle where intimacy, connection, and perhaps even forgiveness could be born and take place. It all felt very new and strange, and we, of course, didn't know what would happen or what would follow after this. Thinking about the work we were about to create, we felt that this kind of real, sincere, intimate encounter could perhaps only happen one-to-one level, by making Shaya vulnerable, a real flesh and blood person, and through that creating a space that would allow certain kind of openness, trust, and reflection to happen. So we decided that Shaya would be in a room with a table and 2 chairs. He would wear the same paperback, which he wore on a red carpet for 6 days, 7 hours a day. Members of the audience were allowed in one at a time through a front door where I was with various objects that had some relation to Shaya's career, such as Indiana Jones' whip, or objects that would have somewhat universal connotations, such as flowers or chocolates. We had no rules about the duration that people could spend inside. We also had no rules or instructions on how to use the chosen objects. We only had a small sign which said no photography allowed, but we were not strictly imposing that rule. There are of course many meta-narratives and levels within that work can be or could be talked about, both happening online and offline, but I will talk about few examples that happened inside the performance space. One of the most fascinating part of the performance was that Shaya became something like a mirror. So people had to decide whether to meet him as a person or see him as an object, essentially. This might sound a bit black and white, but with almost no exceptions, there were givers or takers in the audience. Either people would see Shaya as a person, kind of flesh and bones and soul, or as an object, a celebrity whose ownership they claimed, and therefore to whom they thought they could freely do whatever they wanted. The givers would come into the room, whether out of curiosity or because of who Shaya was, but once they were in there, they could immediately encounter him as another person. They would show humanity, empathy, and understanding. They would either just sit there with him, hold his hands, talk to him, or just experience the performance. There were many nice and intense moments of connection, empathy, and intimacy. For example, there was a blog entry written about the experience, titled, "For 10 minutes I was in love." The takers would follow a very similar pattern. They would come into the room one after another, walk to Shaya, who by the way would sometimes be crying, clearly emotional, take the bag out, take a selfie with him, maybe hug him or talk to him, leave and post the selfie online in social media, often with comments on the actual experience of really meeting him. This I felt was passive viewing of the work. These 2 almost binary patterns of experiencing the performance, I think, are fascinating and do reveal a lot about the society and the times we live in. Other interesting things would of course happen outside, in the line, which had become huge. People would queue for hours, even sleep in front of the gallery, and all sorts of mini societies and communities would form. There was a group who told me how they had slept outside for 2 nights and how the whole experience became less and less of getting in and more of them creating stuff together. So they made music, wrote and created new collaborations. People took turns to go for food and water runs, keeping each other places in a line, and there also was a group who during the last day made like little loyalty badges. And if you wore this badge, you could only stay inside for 5 minutes or less, so more people could come and experience the work. And there was one girl who, after wearing the badge all day, just turned around before entering and ripped the badge off, threw it onto the street in front of all the others. So simultaneously, the work was happening in social media, people tweeting and discussing, sharing tips and experiences online. The physical, relational artwork triggered this kind of connections in social media and internet. There clearly is a gap between the idea, image, or projection of a public persona and an understanding that this person is also a real human being with everything that comes with that. So I think the possibility to access this gap became a huge part of the experience for some of the audience. Even the realization that this kind of gap exists, and how perhaps it is based on our ability to distance ourselves and our empathy from the personas that are created and exist online. For me, this becomes interesting when we think about the idea of the self or the idea of the real self, which no longer only exists in a physical space, but also simultaneously online. We also exist, live and feel virtually on the net. So how do we think about performance art, for example, an art form traditionally related to the physical presence of the artist, if and when we can no longer claim that the real self only exists offline? We will show two different experiences of I Am Sorry.
Guys, I'm here in Los Angeles, California on Beverly Boulevard where LaBeouf is doing a weird art installation saying he's sorry. For what? We're not sure. Hopefully for everything. I'm going to go and sit face to face with LaBeouf and see what it's all about. It's going to be weird.
The line for this art experiment was long and slow moving. So I decided to talk to some of the folks who were literally waiting in line for hours just to see LaBeouf.
I was in there for maybe about 2 minutes, not very long, and I stood in line for 5 hours.
I waited for 6 hours today, and yesterday 3 hours.
It's interesting. I don't know how I felt about it. He was crying, and I just don't know how to feel about it.
I took some pictures of him with myself, and I was just talking to him, and I had some tissues with me, and I dried off his tears because he was crying, and I was holding his hand. Oh, that sounds so creepy.
After 4 long hours of waiting, it was finally time for my moment with Shia. I didn't know much. Hello? Hi? Would you mind taking the bag off? Can you take the bag off your head? Can I take the bag off your head? Wow. Okay, it's you. Hi, Shia. Oh, so this is weird. What are we doing here? Seriously though, what are we doing? What, can you tell, like, what happened to you? Because you used to be this. All right, I have a clip. This is you on the Disney Channel, Even Stevens.
Is this your car? Is that your car? Alright. This one for sure, guys, huh? Is that your car?
No. Hey, that was a good kid. That seemed like an awesome little kid. What happened? Like, what in what has it been, like 10 years? And why are you now a millionaire sitting in a room with people lined outside to see you? They're lined up. Some of them are hungry. They haven't like eaten since breakfast. They don't have to like water. They have jobs they're skipping. They have kids to take care of. They have a dog that needs to be walked. Shia, what are you doing? Why are we in this weird situation? This is easily the weirdest thing I've done today. Say something. Speak. Please. Okay, all right, just a quick word association. Peanut butter. Jelly, say jelly. Shia. All right, you're wasting our time here. You're famous. Like, you're making them, like, sit out, like, watch your spiral, your downward spiral. All right, I'm gonna go. Thank you for taking the time. And, yeah. Yep. Yeah. This has been cuckoo coconuts.
Guys, I did it. I just got out of there. I annoyed LaBeouf for several minutes. And, yeah, you saw it. So, if you could sit down with any celebrity, who would it be, and what would you say? Leave us an answer.
I've been here since 1 o'clock. How you doing? This is number...
4.
This is number 4. I am number 7. I thought I was going to be number 1. This is crazy. Number 1's in the chair. That's number 1. Number 3 was sleeping for a while. Number 5. Number 5 is cool. She let me sleep in her little bedroom for a little bit. Number 2 is all colored.
I'm back. Just like quiet and respectful.
Okay. Next. It's been a long road, guys. It's been a long road. They also have a long road. But this is the moment. Alright, guys. So, I'm pretty much at the end of my time, which I is again, obviously, is my chapter. And I said what I had to say. I have to tell you guys right now, I'm taking my mask, like, I had, like, it was like a big metaphor again, that I'm taking my mask off, guys. I have to be happy. You guys, I have to be happy, I have to take my mask off. And this is how I normally talk, which you guys don't really know. You know what you don't really know. So, from now on, I'm talking my normal self. And I know that like people are gonna think that I am not as smart as them. They're not gonna they think that I'm a lower person than them. But I know myself, and I know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing. So you guys, you know what you're doing. You gotta do what you gotta do. You meant me to take my mask off. Anyway, made me take my mask off. So now you guys can see me for how I am. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, man. Alright. That's the first video off this one there.
So I think this illustrates very clearly two distinct narratives. That of the traditional media narrative of a former Disney child star's downward spiral, leading to the inevitable redemption narrative played out in the tabloid press, but also a narrative of an individual looking for genuine connection and engagement on some kind of quest for the self. And this is a performance we did last September at the Stedelijk in Amsterdam, called #Metamarathon, which took place whilst a symposium on Metamodernism was taking place inside the museum. We staged a full marathon around the perimeter of the museum, but it was a collaborative marathon in which the public was invited to make a choice whether to run with Shire, run for him, or make him run. And so these connections were being made quite literally, encircling the institutions of cultural critique, but occupying a space between or outside of both the art world and the mainstream media narrative. And it's within these spaces that we hoped genuine, meaningful connections might be made. And the artist Brad Trammell talks about the athleticism of our aesthetic endeavours on the web. That today we're all athletic aesthetes, or athletes, as he rather awkwardly puts it, taking on the creative act as a way of exercising or bodybuilding a personal brand or self-mythology. Artists using social media, he says, have transformed the notion of a work from a series of isolated projects to a constant broadcasting of one's artistic identity as a recognisable, unique brand. And in amongst this means of expressing our individuality on the social networks, we all have a certain degree of complicity with the larger branding machines that pay for all the supposed freedom and empowerment of the net. Tailored tweets like those from the Nike Plus app, which are commonplace on friends' Twitter feeds, illustrate this complicity. So in the lead up to the Metamarathon, we tweeted a series of Nike Plus running tweets, which at first glance seemed entirely banal and inexpressive. But through the running routes posted each day, we were actually spelling out the #Metamarathon, which led to headlines like Shia LaBeouf is on a spelling adventure, which sits somewhere between the cynical and enthusiastic curiosity, or perhaps it's both at once. So this type of athleticism is something we've been playing with that sits within the archetypal redemption narrative of the mass media, the idea of getting oneself back into shape, quite literally. In the piece Meditation for Narcissist, which we performed around the corner at Auto Italia last year, Säde jumped rope for an hour via Skype in front of gallery participants after inviting visitors to join him whilst he gazed at his own digital reflection. So this was perhaps in equal measure meditative and narcissistic, spectacle and introspection, relational and public relational aesthetics, if you like. And there's a great essay by Rob Horning in the New Inquiry on authenticity in the social media age, in which he proposes that by making ourselves, or by being made more legible to the network, by our constant sharing and oversharing, we may in fact be becoming aware of what isn't actually translatable to its formats. He suggests that deeper engagement with the network, through sharing every aspect of our lives, could actually provide a more thorough awareness of our soul, with our true self perhaps being constituted within the silences. The network, in this sense, he argues, actually alters us to have a soul, preparing the ground for it.
This is #FollowMyHeart, which is our more recent work. It was a performance and online intervention we did for South by Southwest, Texas, this March. And in the piece, people could follow Shaya's live heartbeat online during the festival. Shaya was wearing a heart monitor 24/7 for 6 days. The monitor transmitted his heartbeat onto followmyheart.net website. And people were able to experience how different everyday and emotional interactions affected the beat of his heart. And we didn't reveal what Shaya was doing in any particular moment, so his heartbeat could not be connected to his actions. We wanted Follow My Heart to be an exploration of how intimate digital space can get. The heart represents our kind of emotional epicenter, at least symbolically. And to listen to another's heart is a reminder of our collective humanity. The actual heartbeat doesn't lie. To listen to your heartbeat, to intuitively know or feel what is the right thing to do. It is like saying to trust your emotions, trust your feelings and intuition rather than more rational or calculative ways of being in the world. When people say, listen to your heart, they are urging us to tune in to the loving side of ourselves, the imaginative, the intuitive, the compassionate, the inner wisdom we all possess. Lots of people told us that after the performance, while their heartbeats synced with Shaya's, and this is something what I have noticed with other performances as well, how our bodies and our beings connect with each other through the rhythm of our hearts. So intimacy was the lifeblood of this project. We were interested in how by transmitting this on the web, on most of kind of public of platforms, the experience could nonetheless be imbued with a sense of deeply personal, one-to-one closeness and connection, using technology to collapse distances between us. In this work, somebody else's heartbeat hopefully reminded you of your own, of our collective humanity, mortality, how we are all connected. In our works, transmedia storytelling is often taken to its extremes, telling a single story across multiple platforms, being aware of each platform's unique formats, such as Twitter's 140 characters or the constrictions of mainstream primetime television. This is another recent work called #LoveLetter, which we created for the Grammys, also exploring intimacy, love and hearts. Shaya was invited to Grammys to introduce the singer Sia on stage, and so we began to think what we could do. Again, we wanted to bring intimacy into a public and somehow cold commercial environment. So we asked Eric, Sia's husband, to secretly write a love letter to Sia, and then Shaya read the letter as an introduction.
I feel like this may be strange to say this here. I love you so. Punch me if I stop crying. I raise the white flag for you, defeated finally. If strength were made of broken pieces, you and I would always win. It is though, and buildings and statues wink at us. I could squeeze you to zero. I'll never know another, what am I going to do? Punch me if I stop crying, and I'll do the same. Love, Eric.
So that was the whole thing. We didn't tell people that this is a letter from Eric. And I think there is a special kind of richness of working with feelings, with love, empathy, and intimacy across media that is not normally associated with this kind of decrease of intimate connections.
And that kind of brings us up to date with our latest work, which was a collaboration with St Martin's, and I know quite a lot of you in the room were directly or indirectly involved in our project, which was titled #Introductions. And just for those of you who might not know what this project consisted on, we were approached by the BA Fine Art course to introduce their live stream somehow, but they were completely open to ideas on how to go about doing this, and we really wanted it to be a collaboration, no side imposing themselves on the other. And so what we ended up doing was asking the students, and I think it was around 38, 39 in the end, to send us a short, around 100-word text, or something that would last around 30 seconds, which could be any text or a script or anything. And our only kind of stipulation was the text it could be as poetic, abstract, or literal as the students wanted, but the emphasis should be on expressing the feeling and tone of the work being introduced. And it was a really interesting project to do, because we didn't know any of the students' work, but through doing this we found we really got a sense of not just their individual works, but of the collective years kind of sensibility, which very much aligned, I think, to our own kind of, to this kind of meta-modern structure of feeling. So yeah, I just thought we'd play 3 or 4 short extracts from this to give those of you who don't know it some idea. So.
The sculptor, the painter, the viewer, the figure of the artist has been as fetishized in Western culture as the Hollywood actor, town drunk or the Messiah himself.
Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed in the gay submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There is light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness.
Hunter, I never tried to break her spirit. Hit my car in front of me. I was shocked. I buried her by cat litter and wild food. Her sunshine place could only dig the stones because the city sewage pipes started 3 or 4 feet. I remember you used to paint pictures of naked women to crash on this. Their identities were hidden too. I always wondered who these women were. Their shiny black round heads like bottle pops. Props. Who were they, Dad? We only got 30 seconds, so I'll try his voice, but I don't know, man. Who makes that choice? Who's pretending to be who? We're pretending to talk to a you that doesn't exist yet, but what's really going on here? I don't think any of us understand. Maybe you do. There's always reflections of you in the screen, but I can't speak. I'm dumb. I'm the dumbest. The shy talks. 30 seconds, so all right. Pressure, whatever. Hey, Mom, it's really Joe. Bet you never thought this would fucking happen, huh?
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just
So yeah, the beauty of using green screen was that whilst in the live stream, each student used the green screen to superimpose whatever background they wanted. At the same time, we published this video on the web, on Vimeo, under a Creative Commons non-commercial share-alike license, which meant that anyone could essentially adapt it however they wanted. And this particular segment by Joshua Parker got picked up very quickly by the web and went kind of super viral. It's clocked up, I think, cumulatively maybe 30 or 40 million hits to date. And you can see Shai's motivational talk has been put in, to become a TED talk. He's been put in Star Wars and all sorts of, even some weird psychedelic Teletubby thing going on there. But I think this illustrates how collaboratively the artwork started with the three of us being approached by St. Martin's, and then 40 students making it a larger collaborative group. And then on the web, there's literally thousands of these videos now. And the media even started reporting on this in a way that really... well, I'll just read you a section from Yahoo News, which is quite a mainstream outlet. And they wrote that the video art in this case wasn't just what LaBeouf performed or what the Central St. Martin students created from it. In the end, the performance art also included a whole internet full of inspired, witty, and impressively quickly made videos. Well done all, you've earned your degrees. End quote. And just to end this little segment, I thought we'd show the evidence that this clip has reached kind of peak meme status with the very catchy Songify This version.
Paste down my face, on my hair, on my shirt. She looks at me, and I look at her. 1, 2, 3. Your life is your life, so murder is life. In God's way, take a light in you. It leads the darkness, you're marvelous. Who's pretending to be? Who's pretending to be? Your life is your life, the fools, the repetitions, the London club. And it takes admission. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit. You're gonna wake up and look what the heck. Just do it, nothing is impossible. Just do it, yesterday you said tomorrow. Just do it, don't let your dreams be dreams. And more often you do it, more like they will leave me. More like they will leave me. I saw her 2 days in the lap. I saw her brush. She's looking at me. I saw her blush. Sometimes it feels like you feel that void between us, that void between me and child love. Paste down my face, on my hair, on my shirt. She looks at me, and I'm looking at her. I hurt myself, I'm on a wonderful pleasure. Ebb and flow, expanding the pressure. Just do it, nothing is impossible. Just do it, yesterday you said tomorrow. Just do it, don't let your dreams be dreams. And more often you do it, more like they will be. Just do it, nothing is impossible. Just do it, yesterday you said tomorrow. Just do it, don't let your dreams be dreams. And more often you do it, more like they will be.
So we wanted to finish on an older piece which encapsulates the interplay within hopefully all our works with the online spilling into the offline world of passive and active modes of participating in and collaborating across the networks. This is a This is a video of crowdsourced documentation of work we made the day after #IamSorry finished. It is simultaneously over the top absurd, beautiful, and empowering. In a sense, this kind of embodies the metamodern sentiment, how today we are hypocrites, but at least we keep trying.
Who can tell me what this is all about? It's kind of impressive what you're doing with the coins, but what the hell is it?
Creative mode.
Wow. Where are they doing it?
Oh man. Yeah. How do you come up with something like that? And who funded that shit?
Stop creating? What's that? It's by far one of the most beautiful views, or a beautiful creation that the planes in the sky have created. No chemtrails, but a beautiful message. Start creating.
Go crazy.
Yeah, but they didn't do it in God's way, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.